Welcome, everybody, to Krystal, Kyle, and Friends. Today, we're going to dork out and we're going to learn every single thing, more than you'd ever want to know, about the debt ceiling.
No, it's everything you would want to know about the debt ceiling.
I
mean, there's a lot to get into here, though, with the failures of the past, the failures of the present, how we can avoid the failures of the future, who this is going to impact, how Biden could get out of this even today if he wanted to. There's a lot to talk to David about.
I don't know what percentage of our audience really cares about this, but they should, because, again, this is like a totally manufactured fake crisis that becomes a real crisis, and Biden's handling it poorly. And then there's the question, what even is the debt ceiling? Why do we have it? We're going to dive into all that, and people are going to know more probably than people in the Biden administration by the time we're done with this.
Yeah. Well, and David over at the American Prospect, they have been publishing a daily newsletter called X Date that is tracking these negotiations right up until the X date, which we're told is June 1st, although there is some question whether they could extend it a little further beyond that. But in my opinion, looking at a lot of the coverage and analysis, I think theirs has been the smartest and has pointed out some pieces that I didn't realize. For example, there is already a lawsuit going on about the debt ceiling that could be relevant to the negotiations that I saw no one else covering except for David. So perfect guy to have on to break all of this down for us.
Absolutely. But before we get to that, this is so fun. I've enjoyed this so much. So Ron DeSanctimonious, he made a horrendous political decision. In retrospect, it's easy to call it horrendous, but there were still question marks even before he decided.
I called it. I mean, I was pretty critical even before it was a total disaster.
Yeah. So he decided, let me team up with not controversial or questionable billionaire weirdo at all, Elon Musk. He said, let me team up with him. We're going to launch my presidential campaign in a Twitter Spaces with Elon Musk. And I mean, there's already, just like right up front, first of all, the audio quality is ass cheeks.
Horrendous.
It is like you're talking in a tin can.
Yes.
It's like you hopped back in time to 1998 and made a phone call from a payphone, and like that's the level of the audio quality.
And he already doesn't have a great voice.
No.
So like you add some really tinny audio to that. No visuals, no staging, nothing.
Horrendous.
Terrible.
So bad. So anyway, he decides to do that, and it at first just didn't work, right? Like there were people trying to get in 3 times, 5 times. You know, you get in, it crashes, you get kicked out. You get in, you just hear like static noise. You get in, you hear a freaking echo where people are talking, and then you just double talk.
Elon Musk is on a hot mic talking about like servers are melting down.
Yeah, Ron DeSantis goes out of his own, announcement and then tries to come back into his own announcement. Like you said, you got Elon Musk. He's talking. He doesn't realize people can hear him. He's talking to David Sachs, and he's like, oh, it appears to be crashing. Oh. Now, and you learned after the fact, apparently Twitter did zero work to try to like make sure they were prepared for this event.
Yeah, there was a tech reporter who did some digging and found that Twitter did no advance prep work to make sure that that they had the technical capability to accomplish this. You were saying Michael Tracy. I've never used Twitter Spaces before, ever.
Me either.
Michael Tracy, I think, was saying that it commonly crashes when you get to a certain size.
Yeah, I believe he says he was in a room with like 3,000 people yelling about Ukraine, and it would crash then.
Yeah.
So at first it was like, what, 500,000 people or so who were in there?
Yes.
And then it crashed.
And this, I'm not talking like a couple minutes. This went on for 25 minutes. 25 minutes. And the original Twitter Spaces had over 500,000 people in it.
And then when they
had to redo it and send out a new link, it was at peak half the audience.
Oh.
So half abandoned ship.
Oh.
And think of what that means for your fundraising, for everything. I mean, it could not have been more of a catastrophe. And then when they did actually get the tech working well enough, it's not like he took advantage, this is an informal space and we'll have more of like a laid back thought. He reads a pre-prepared 9-minute long stump speech that's like boring as hell. And so you have all the disadvantages of Twitter Spaces sounding like crap and none of the theoretical potential advantage. I mean, it just, on every level, every decision that was made, I'm like, who thought this was a good idea? Who thought this was a good idea?
And by the way, nobody's in his corner right now. Literally everybody's going after him. So Fox News had made clear to Ron DeSantis, you're our guy.
Yeah.
You're our guy. We're going to back you.
Murdoch met him and said, I'm with you. Even before Trump lost in 2020, he said, we're going to back you.
So Fox, naturally, they're going to want the announcement, right? Hey, do an exclusive with us. DeSantis turns them down to go with Elon Musk. Well, and now guess what? Stabbed in the back time, bitch. This Game of Thrones style. Now all of a sudden you got all these headlines in Fox News and Fox Business where they're like, disastrous launch.
Yeah.
You know, Ron DeSantis, horrendous way to start your
Amateur
campaign.
hour, they said.
Yeah, like, how did you not see this coming?
Right.
Right? You're going to stab your biggest ally in the back? You need them more than anything, bro.
And not to mention, Fox has got to be particularly sensitive about Twitter because Tucker announced he's going to Twitter.
Oh, they
and
were
the
loving it.
Daily Wire people said, we're going to start streaming on Twitter. And there's been all this chatter about, oh, maybe Twitter is going to be what takes out Fox. So Fox is sensitive to Ron DeSantis, who is their chosen guy, doing his launch on Twitter instead of doing, doing something exclusive with them. So yeah, they decided to go for blood.
So now let's talk about Trump. Everybody was having a field day watching this, laughing, enjoying it. And then you have, hey, by the way, the funniest reaction, in my opinion, was Elon Musk. Because Elon Musk, he's like, of course, Elon sees the reaction.
Yeah.
And he responded to somebody on Twitter and was like, you say it didn't go well. I say it was massive attention.
Okay.
Number one story in the country.
Okay.
And then it reminded me of that tweet where, it's like he does something stupid and then his sycophantic fans are like, masterful gambit, sir. I think it was like Elon slams dick in car door. Masterful gambit, sir.
Yeah.
He was doing that to himself, like, oh no, actually this went really well. Literally, nobody believes that. Nobody believes that.
Well,
massive, massive cope.
Yes, and as disastrous as it was for DeSantis, and also, by the way, embarrassing, because the content of the conversation was like 50% people fawning over Elon
OD
and Twitter
for no
Spaces
reason.
instead of talking about this man who's launching his presidential campaign. But terrible for Ron DeSantis, obviously, but also a real disaster for Elon Musk, and unmasking
But
him
I love
once
it.
again as if you need it, that this is not the promised genius that we
But that's the
purported
thing.
to be.
Like, to the DeSantis people, are all of you absolute nat IQ morons? Because you had to see the roughly 7,412 stories leading up to this day about all the red flags around Elon Musk. He's not a super genius. He doesn't get everything right. He's got a massive PR effort around him that propped him up. And he's got this thing which, like, seems to convince, middle-aged white men that he's, like, the savior. But he's not even close. How many things have you ignored about Twitter and how we messed up Twitter? 75% of the staff you fired and you're surprised when your shit's not working?
Yeah, I mean, it's so buggy. It's like gone down a bunch of times. Just randomly stuff will stop working. Like, just on a basic level, you have to ask, okay, this is mission critical. We have spent months preparing for this moment, if not years preparing for this moment of launch. It's got to be choreographed. It's got to be perfect. How about we go with the janky platform that, like, shuts down randomly all the time and has a million bugs and this guy who's a mess? Yeah.
So Trump's first reaction, I got to admit, our big wet boy missed. Our big beefy boy, it was a little bit of a whiff. In fact, I looked at it and I was like, is he on something? Because it seemed, and not Adderall, because when he's on Adderall, he's cooking.
Yeah.
It was like, this is weird.
Maybe
like,
he needed to take the Adderall.
Right,
Maybe
he wasn't on the
problem.
Adderall.
Yeah.
I don't have the tweet in front of me right now, but it was something to the effect of like, Rob, of course he calls him Rob, which I now find hilarious because I don't even understand why he's doing it.
I've got it.
Okay, go ahead.
Rob, my red button is bigger, better, stronger, and is working. Truth, yours does not. Per my conversation with Kim Jong-un of North Korea, soon to become my friend. So that was the first attempt.
I'm just confused at that one. I'm like, dude, you're Trump. Like, you got to bring your A game, dog. This is like D game.
He's given you so much material to work with, and this is what you're going with?
A callback to something from like 2017 with
It was all
Kim Jong-un.
downhill after Rob.
Right, Rob was the funniest
strong
part.
opening,
right,
and then
it
fell off.
It just tapered off, right?
Yes.
But he did not disappoint. Because in typical Trump fashion, he did not stop. He kept going. He's probably still talking about it right now.
I guarantee
he released a video he released a video this morning, which is the day after, where he's like, Rob, this is the worst campaign launch anybody's ever seen, ever. Many people are saying this. So anyway, this was the first
true,
one.
Though.
I know, he did that.
The worst.
So this was the first reaction where I was like, oh, he's cooking again. Watch this, guys.
So if you guys can't see it, it's like the SpaceX Elon shuttle collapsing and burning in flames. And then he's got, it says Ron with the Jeb exclamation on it.
Twitter caught that. I didn't catch that initially.
I didn't catch that right away either.
But yeah, the Jeb, it was Jeb with the exclamation point. Like, that was his slogan.
Yeah, but he made it Ron.
He made it Ron, and the thing, and by the way, I saw some great tweets also of people making the similar kind of point, like, oh, Ron DeSantis finding out what happens when you rely on Elon Musk to launch stuff, and it shows a SpaceX rocket just absolutely blowing up when it's taking off.
Yes.
So I also love, I want to go through some of these other things I saw on Twitter. Somebody tweeted Ron DeSantis' campaign, and it shows, I don't know if you're online enough to know this, but the old school Stephen A. Smith tweet where it says, "Take a look, y'all," and then it's just like a JPEG that doesn't have a link to it.
4346
Yeah.
JPEG.
And there's also like random capital letters in the word "take." It's like, "Take a look, y'all." Like nothing there. We also have this. I thought was hilarious. You had Blacks for Trump showed out outside of DeSantis's event at the Four Seasons, where people were like there to listen to the launch on Twitter. Donors were there, which, by the way, hilarious. Imagine them sitting there for 30 minutes as you hear echoes and static noise and nothing's happening and it's crashing and they're trying to get back in. This is his big money donors.
Yeah.
And so you got that going on inside. Blacks for Trump outside, by the way, calling Ron DeSantis racist. These are Trump supporters who are like, he's so racist, man. He did the thing on the African American studies. How dare he do that? I love how the Trump people are hilarious because they're so non-ideological.
Yeah,
that they'll just hit people with anything.
Anything.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
And then the Daily Mail, of course. And I can't believe nobody thought of this before. Ron Disaster.
Yeah.
I was like, oh God, why didn't I think of that?
People.
It was waiting for it. And the speech itself, the thing that I kept noticing is, first of all, the first like 15 minutes was all COVID.
Right.
Why are you talking about COVID still? www.wrapitup.com.
Literally,
we are so far by it.
Like 1% of people say this is their top issue.
Literally the absolute bottom on the list of issues that people that in polling say they care about right now.
Yep.
The bottom issue. So when you're up there doing COVID this, COVID that, people are like, it's not going to work.
Right.
It's not going to, might work in his little group, and that's the thing. He's way too online.
That's
because we also got gender ideology. Wouldn't shut up about that. DEI, which probably 17% of the country even knows what that is. We get woke Olympics, CRT. All of those things were mentioned and were mentioned multiple times before we got anything on jobs or healthcare. And by the way, I actually don't even think he mentioned jobs or healthcare.
Right.
Could you imagine launching a presidential campaign and you don't mention any kitchen table issues? Any.
He does like vague allusions to like Florida's a great place and people are moving here. But in terms of any specific, even from like a right-wing perspective of, you know, here's how we're going to curb inflation or whatever, it's bad. He went on with Trey Gowdy and did like a normal ass Fox interview, which, you know, it was terrible. But in comparison to the Twitter thing, it felt like, okay, well, at least, you know, it technically functions. He got asked a question about the economy and it was the same problem. It was all this like technical jargon about the Fed and a stable dollar, nothing that was relatable and tangible at all. Meanwhile, you have Trump out there hitting him, I think, very effectively on wanting to cut Social Security, wanting to cut Medicare, on wanting to raise sales taxes 23% across the board. So Trump has chosen this issue set that has like really broad resonance. And DeSantis, it's very niche, it's very online, and it's also very targeted towards like the college-educated Republican base and their particular like niche issues of ESG, I didn't even know about the he said like the accreditation cartel
about
around
colleges. Yeah, like what, bro? What are you talking about?
What are you doing right now?
Stop reading Barry Weiss's garbage.
There's
not going to get you anywhere.
Cryptocurrency and Dogecoin.
Yeah, that guy David Sachs brought up Dogecoin. Like what? You're bringing up a scammy ass coin in the middle of a presidential launch? What is wrong with you?
Yeah, so it's a very wine track kind of, you know, campaign within the Republican base. Really, you can see why he hasn't had resonance with the like non-college educated, more working class part of the Trump coalition and really limiting himself. So even without the technical glitches, it was a mess and a disaster.
And even on like the net migration point to Florida, as Trump says, of course, Ron, there's sunshine and beaches. It's like, that's so accurate because you know this. That literally describes me. I love Florida. Why do I love Florida? Because of the sunshine and the beaches. It's got nothing to do with the politics.
Yeah. I'm
not like, oh, look, he did the Stop Woke Act. Let's move there for that reason.
Right.
Like, I'm so happy teachers can't say if they're gay.
Right.
Like, of course
Thank
not.
God they got that Amanda Gorman poem out of the elementary school.
So before we show you the Trump absolutely bodying and mauling DeSantis with the last part, I do want to tell you guys this because I found this fascinating. So Matt Binder tweeted this. So apparently Twitter took off the view count feature on all the tweets. Did you know that?
No.
Yeah, so I didn't realize that either. I'm not gonna lie, people were really against the view count thing. It didn't bother me. I just thought, like, whatever, who cares?
So like on the videos you post on
No,
Twitter,
no,
you
not
can't.
even videos, but yes, it's for videos too, but they just had tweet view counts
Oh,
too.
okay. They did that for a while. And
They
now
had
they've
that for a
taken it off.
while. Now they've gotten rid of it. But
Gotcha. Okay.
apparently they didn't do it for, I believe it's Android. Android, they still, for whatever reason, it was an oversight. They left the view count there.
Mm-hmm.
So DeSantis's, from his main account, his video that he tweeted out, like his big, like, okay, I'm running now thing.
Yeah.
The actual number that it shows on Android is 122,000. Okay. Now, by the way, that is like, I'm pretty sure they juiced their numbers anyway, but let's just accept it at face value. It's 122,000.
Okay.
They then posted like a screenshot of it, the DeSantis people, and changed it to 4.1 million. So they're juicing their own numbers.
Wow.
This is according to Matt Binder, and he has all the screenshots. It looks legit, etc. That's so embarrassing, man. All of this is so deeply embarrassing. But we're saving the most embarrassing part for last year. So this is something Trump reposted, I believe, on his Instagram or on Truth Social or wherever. Hilarious. Take a look.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to our Ron DeSantis Twitter space.
Hello? Is my microphone working correctly?
George, can you just wait while we...
Hello? Can you hear me?
We can all hear you, George. Can you just hold on for a second?
Hilfa, I don't think they can hear me.
I can hear you fine, George. Just speak to the
I don't think George
microphone.
knows how to use Twitter.
Hello? Can you hear me now?
Can I please make my big announcement now? Everyone just...
Hello?
Just shut up, George.
Can somebody just mute George?
Dick, could you try not to cough on the...
Okay, so how are we going to take out Trump, you guys?
Guys from the FBI, this is not a private call. This is a public Twitter space. Everyone can listen in.
God damn it.
Anyway, guys, we invited everyone to this Twitter space so Governor Ron DeSantis could...
Everyone just shut the hell up so I can make my announcement, okay?
You go, girl.
Wait, the devil is gay?
So what? Everyone in this call is gay. I happen to know every single one of you has a secret gay lover hidden in your closet.
Mein Führer, ich kann nicht zulassen, dass die Soldaten, die für Sie verbringen.
Guys, can we please just calm down?
So anyway, guys, I just wanted to announce that I'm...
Okay, I can hear the governor very well.
Shut up.
Would you please shut up already? I'm running for fucking president, okay?
Yeah, we kind of already
We
knew about
already
it.
know, Governor.
Congratulations, Governor.
Well, that concludes our Twitter space for today. Thank you to all of our...
Hold your horses, Elon. The real president is going to say a few words. The devil, I'm going to kick your ass very soon. Hitler, you're already dead. Dick Cheney sounds like you'll be joining Hitler very soon. Klaus Schwab and George Soros, I'm putting both your asses in jail. And Ron DeSanctimonious can kiss my big, beautiful 2024 presidential ass. Trump 2024, baby. Let's go.
Oh my God.
Man,
Like,
he's
how do you-
brutal, dude. He
how
is
do you-
brutal.
how do you go up against that guy? How do you can you?
He's totally unmoored by rules of decorum and civility.
And he gets away with it.
But it makes it awesome, right? Like, you know what I noticed? And we've talked about this before. When Trump does something that's like outrageous, the first time he does it, people are like, oh,
Right.
sir.
Right.
The second time he does it, they're still like, oh, too far.
Right.
The third time it becomes like, and then the fourth time you're like, you're like, I like that. It's kind of funny. Like, that's what happens,
Yeah.
right? Like, people give it's like the South Park pass. South Park kind of got away with whatever they wanted to get away with because they just
Yeah.
went over the top so many times over and over.
Yeah.
He has that.
He
So now
has
it's
it.
like, he's like you made a point of like, imagine if Marianne Williamson did something like akin to that.
Yeah, right. We'd be like, oh my God, what are you doing? Yeah.
And mostly the media would bury her and all her
Everybody-
supporters would be like, I don't
total
know, this
freak
is
out.
tasteless.
I mean,
But
just
Trump does it, everybody's
Adolf
like,
Hitler.
yeah.
I mean, in this piece, they suggest Dick Cheney's gonna die. Like, they put Adolf Hitler and the devil. DeSantis. He says he's gonna jail Klaus Schwab and George Soros.
Which, by the way,
tells
Go ahead.
DeSantis to kiss his, presidential ass. Or like, there are 1,000 things in there that no one else could get away with, and yet he posts it, and everyone's just like, LOL.
I know. It honestly, it is all good fun. Like, he is sort of burying him. And how do you respond to this? I mean, look, DeSantis' argument, which sort of makes sense, is the whole like, I'm a winner, you're a loser. 2018, Republicans lost because of you. 2020, they lost because of you. 2022, they lost because of you. I won by 19 points. Step aside, son. Like, that's his argument, right? But
yeah.
when Trump just keeps hitting you with absolute nuclear bombs in the face Like, what do you do? Is that argument really going to stick? Or are you going to, no matter what you do, you sort of look like a little cuck boy? You
Well,
know what I
not to
mean?
mention, if your whole argument is like, I'm Trump without the drama, I'm Trump, but I'm competent, and then that's your launch, you know,
That's
you're
rough,
not
man.
really
That's rough.
demonstrating the level of competence that is supposed to be core to the argument that you're making here. And then, yeah, it's a totally asymmetric field. Trump hits him with everything he's got all day, every day.
But it's
and
so funny.
DeSantis,
It's so funny.
And DeSantis can't even say his name.
I know.
I mean, he didn't even in his Disastrous Twitter launch, in the multiple interviews, he didn't even mention his
The
name.
closest he comes, you're right, he doesn't mention it. The closest he comes is to say, we've gotten used to a culture of losing in the Republican Party.
Right. And everyone's
But
like,
he won't even say,
"Ooh."
like, a culture of losing because of Donald Trump. He won't even say that.
So how do you be when this guy is unloading on you and everyone is just like loving it and eating it up, and you can't even take like a passive aggressive jab at him? How is that going to work out?
I will say this, though, and tell me if you agree with this. I do feel like the absolute, like, jovial reaction among people like us,
Yeah.
I do think that is more of an online thing. You know what I mean? I do think that you will find some people in the normie world who are like, he is being a clown. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they say that, but
But
They
the thing
say
is,
that,
his
but
lead
they
is
vote
so
for
big
him.
that it doesn't really matter, right? Like, even if you take 10 or 15 points off of his lead because some people think this is in poor taste, which I don't even think that'll happen, but just assuming that would happen, he's still up by 20 points, 25 points, right?
I mean, anyone who would have left Trump over like decorum issues has been long gone.
I know, but I guess I'm more alluding to like moderates or centrists or people who are somewhat apolitical but still vote every 4 years. Like those people, I think their
You're
reaction
talking
is
more
not.
about more of like a general election audience than a Republican.
Yeah,
primary audience.
and not like internet brain people. We're all internet brain no matter how much we try to avoid it. And so we
Yeah.
just take nothing but
But here's-
glory in watching this hilarious fight unfold.
Here's the problem is that Trump is both internet brained, but he also has demonstrated he still has some of that normie touch. So as we were discussing earlier,
Because of the Medicare stuff, yeah, Social Security
DeSantis
stuff.
is 100% internet
Oh, yeah, he's
brained,
gone.
and he's much worse at it
He's
than
gone,
Trump
yeah.
is, right? So he's
Mhm.
not good at being a troll. He's not funny. It is sanctimonious. I mean, the nickname does kind of work and fit, right? It is sanctimonious. It's these very niche ideological crusades. Trump does the online thing maybe better than anyone else, but then he also was like hitting him on Social Security and Medicare and hitting him on taxes and hitting him on the border, which is something the Republican base does genuinely care about. So I don't know. I listen, anything can happen. I'm not saying it's over for him, but he really needed this moment to demonstrate that there was life in his campaign, that he could be the Trump beater, that he could be the guy, because the media has been, they were kind of looking for a little bit of a comeback narrative. They were writing, though, here's his $200 million plan to win. They were writing those pieces. You gave no one, your allies and your you gave no one any reason to think that you had what it takes to defeat a guy who's riding high.
I have to say about the Trump thing, too, the thing that's so amazing about his political phenomenon is that it very clearly is just a vibes thing. It's all vibes. He's captured the heart and the imagination of a certain segment of the population who love him vociferously. And it is 100% vibes. It's like I said, the Blacks for Trump showing up outside of Ron DeSantis' launch and saying that, Ron is racist. And it's like, you're backing Donald Trump. But they don't care. It doesn't have to be ideologically consistent. None of that really matters, And that's unlike anything I've ever seen before in politics in my entire life. Because I'll give you one more example. Like in that launch video, it had George Soros, right?
Yeah.
And all the Trump people now believe Ron DeSantis has been endorsed and backed by George Soros. They all believe it.
Yeah.
It is fundamentally untrue. Where they got that from, so Alex Jones said that on his show. He got that from an article where Soros made some sort of comment like, I think DeSantis can beat Trump. And he also said, like, I'm looking forward to them going at it. He said something like that. They spun that as George Soros endorses Ron DeSantis, and then you had it written on like right-wing rag blogs, you know what I mean? Like the fringe of the fringe ones. And then they all run with it. And so like, the truth doesn't matter. Reality doesn't matter. Even ideology doesn't matter. It's just like they love the vibes that Trump gives them. They love how he makes them feel. They love that he's like, he trigger the libs all day long. Like that really is and of course the reason I love it, number one, he's funny. Number two, let him fight, man. I want to see them rip each other apart. I don't like either one of these guys.
Yeah.
So when Trump goes after DeSantis, it's like, yeah, you're making a lot of good points, bro. The sales tax thing, you want to do a regressive tax where you're taxing middle class and poor people? No, I'm not for that. You want to cut Social Security, Medicare?
Yeah.
I'm not for
And
that.
he was a Tea Party dude who voted repeatedly to cut Social Security and Medicare.
That's right.
No
and
doubt
look,
about it.
I hope DeSantis grows a pair of nuts and turns around and says, hey, 200,000 jobs were outsourced under your administration, Donald Trump. What happened to Mr. Anti-outsourcing? Mr. I'm going to keep American jobs in America. What happened to that?
Yeah.
You know, what happened to you're tough on crime? You did the First Step Act. You're freeing criminals all over the place.
Yeah.
I want to see them rip each other to shreds. I would love every single second of it.
But so far, it only goes in one direction.
So far, it only goes in one
everyone
direction?
is too afraid. I mean, I do think the vibes thing is most clear on the Republican side.
Oh, absolutely.
But there's an element on the Democratic side
well,
as
it's electability on the Democratic side.
Right, which
So they
is
do
its
this meta
own
game.
vibe.
It is,
Which
yeah.
is its own vibe of like, oh, the responsible one, the adult in the room. Like, that's
Correct.
the vibe on the Democratic side that they pick up on.
It's a meta game where they do this 3D chess thing where it's like, well, I think the person who can most beat the Republicans, which is the most important thing, is the one that the media is force-feeding me. So I think it's the most conservative Democrat. Shock, it always happens to be the most conservative Democrat, right?
Right.
That's their version of the vibes thing.
Yes, exactly.
But nobody on the Democratic side would take stuff like this. And that, I mean, keep it real, that does, in a weird way, it does make the right-wing base just more fun in a sense, right? Like, they want you to go balls to the wall.
Yeah.
They want you to just like, hey, man, say whatever the hell comes to your mind.
Yeah.
No filter whatsoever. I do wish there was more of that on the left. Obviously, left-wing ideology and sensibilities and morality and ethics are way better, so it has to be in line with that philosophy, right? But I still like
There's
just like no holds barred, like I'm just going to say it type
There's
stuff.
a lot more pearl clutching in the Democratic side of the aisle and like
yeah.
moralizing and that sort of thing, which is, it's not very fun.
I know, which, by the way, how on earth can DeSantis respond to that thing that Trump put? There's literally nothing you can say.
You can do
like, once again, press conference. The devil actually doesn't support my campaign. I'm not a fan of Adolf Hitler, despite what the former president says. It's like, what are you going to say? There's nothing you can say.
Like, you just have to take it.
You just got to take it. Take it on the chin.
Take it. And when he has, I've brought this up a million times, but it was so revealing. When he took a little bit of a shot at Trump over like the Stormy Daniels hush money stuff, he was like, oh, well, I don't know anything about hush money payments to porn stars. There was a meltdown among Trump people. There was a meltdown overall in the right about like how mean he was to Donald Trump and how dare you and how could you say that? I'm like, I feel bad for him in a sense because Trump can do whatever he wants and there's just a completely different standard on the other side.
So final question. I'll ask you this because like I just described the dynamic with Trump. First time he says it, it's outrageous. Second time, it's a little outrageous. Third time he says it, it's like people are like, okay. Fourth time he says it, everybody's laughing. Yeah. Right? Like that's how it works with Trump. If DeSantis were to push through the awkward, outrageous phase, would it work?
No, because he doesn't have the skill or the charm or the charisma.
That's my intuition as well.
Donald Trump is a TV star. He has an X factor. He has charisma. He has he's hilarious. He's genuinely hilarious, which is not a typical, that's an unusual trait. And so, no, do I think DeSantis can pull that off? No, I do not.
Yeah.
Rob, do I think Rob can pull that off? No.
It's just like I wonder what his best case scenario is moving forward. I thought for a very long time he was plodding along nicely, doing the best he possibly could given the hand that he was dealt.
Yeah.
But we're at the point now where it's like, dude, even if you overperform what your abilities are, you're still going to come up 20 percentage points short of this wrecking ball.
Sagar was trying to be nice on Breaking Point. All right, let me make the best case I can for Ron DeSantis. And it basically came down to, well, Trump could die.
Well, you know my theory. It's he could die.
Which is true.
Or he could end up in jail. And I think that makes a difference. It's so funny. You don't even think that makes a difference.
Well,
you're like, he'll still win from prison.
I still think he'll win the Republican primary. Do I think he win the general election from prison?
Of course not.
No. But do I think he would win the Republican primary from prison?
That would be so funny, man.
Yeah,
It'd be so funny. It's a fitting way to the end of the U.S. empire, isn't it? Like this reality star buffoon who became president, ran again from prison, almost won. He was in that scenario, Biden would only win by 2 points, by the way.
Right, exactly. Everybody would be like, oh, Joe, I don't know if this guy's going to make it for another, but what else can we do? And God forbid, we don't want Kamala either. And if it was Kamala, she might actually lose to Trump in prison.
She would lose to Trump in prison. Trump would. That's my toilet. My toilet's right here in the cell. You guys can all see it. It's a beautiful toilet. We keep it nice and clean. They give us 3 meals. It's very nice, but I'm always working on my political stuff.
I mean,
yeah.
It's such a sad state that the country is in with these two dudes that no one wants to be the nominees. And it's still like, oh, I guess this is what we're likely to head towards. But I guess all you can do is laugh.
Yeah. Anyway, go ahead. You give.
All right, we got David
introduce our
Dayen,
boy.
executive editor of the American Prospect. I think one of the best thinkers in terms of like actually understanding the powers available to politicians and to the president specifically to break down for us what is going on with the debt ceiling. So let's get to it.
Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop, and watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.